So hi. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm bummed that I didn't go to the Dr. Artist conference. Welcome everybody who's here. I just wanted to share with you. Some of you may know Mike Colomb with Renegade Nation. This is his beautiful wife, Vanessa. And I got to meet Vanessa the first time, probably about a month ago. And then her and Mike came over to my house in California a couple weeks ago. And then we went out for dinner. So we've become fast friends because it's all about health for us, right?
Yes.
And remind me, are you actually, do you help people with their medical, like host appointments?
Yes, I do.
So what do you call yourself then?
So I'm a certified traditional naturopath. So traditional naturopath is a little bit different from a naturopath that gets like their doctorate, because we are not allowed to diagnose and or inject anybody. So with a regular naturopath that, like, say, goes to Bashir or something like that, they could do IVs or like shots and things like that, and they could actually diagnose you and say you have this. Although I don't ever like to take on anything. I just say, this is what's happening in my body. Let's figure it out. So
yeah,
it works for me because that's just kind of like how I think anyway. So yeah.
You don't want to take on a label from somebody else, what they've called it. That's what I was talking to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I have COVID. And I'm like, well, why aren't you just calling it a cold? And they're like, well, because I have all the symptoms of when I had cold or Lyme, which is interesting because you were just talking about Lyme and you had Lyme.
Yes.
And I know two other people who it's really bad, but I want to kind of stay focused on the Dr. Artist and Lifewave today. I just,
we can talk for hours about all the things.
We can talk for hours.
Listen to us.
I know. I just, health is just a never ending thing for me. I've lost both of my parents. My mom had dementia, so my siblings and I are always concerned about dementia. My dad had a stroke. My brother has arthritis. My other brothers had a heart attack, broke legs, broke back. My sister has rheumatoid arthritis. There's a plethora of health challenges. So that's something that's always been at the forefront for me. I started learning about health probably about 14 or 15 years ago when I was listening to the China study and how vegetables and everything are good to help clean out arteries and all that stuff. And it was just like mind blowing to me back then. But now listening to Dr. Artist, that my good friend and Dr. Vodon had sent me one of Dr. Artist's videos back in March. I was still out in Florida. I'm so grateful I'm not there with all the flooding and storms and stuff, but it's just crazy weather. But the Dr. Artist really hit me with the nicotine and all of that. And so then Dr. Vodon had shared that with me in March. So I listened to that and I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. And then you and I had gotten together just, the couple weeks ago. And then you were telling me that you were going with Twigs to the Dallas event. And so I ended up purchasing the event, and I didn't know it wasn't going to be recorded until the 1st, because I actually went out to my doctor friend's ranch and we were going to watch it after we did our horseback riding and stuff. So we only got to watch a couple hours, and now it's coming out tomorrow, I think, the recording.
Yes, tomorrow. Thank goodness.
I know, but where is my patch? I've got a patch on right now, the nicotine patch. So I've been on them for about a week now, and I don't like to go crazy with all these different things. So I'm doing a nicotine patch for 24 hours, and then I'm doing my Lifewave patch for 12 hours. And I know that they're different things, but I'm less is more girl. And so can you maybe share what the takeaways were from Dr. Artist? Because I know you were just there. I don't get to see the recording until tomorrow, but just maybe for people who aren't familiar with it, maybe just give a little bit about that and then share a little bit about the Lifewave. I just find it so fascinating. And I do have to say this. My oldest daughter was at my house last week and she saw the nicotine patch boxes. She was flipping out before she was going to work. Flipping out. She's like, that will kill you. That's addictive. That's really bad for you. She went on. I was trying to get ready for a conference call. I'm like, I don't have time to talk about this. She was, because she's just right over here getting ready for work. And I'm like, her the video, the 2-hour video, but I couldn't believe the effect that had on her, that she is so programmed about the nicotine, you know? And I know for me, like I actually sent my brother some nicotine for 30 days and he actually smokes. It's disgusting, but he smokes. And because I was with my friend riding horses and I'm like, well, how will the nicotine work differently for my brother who smokes? And she's like, it's a different nicotine. So she said, if he does the patches, let me know, because she wants to know how it'll affect somebody who's already smoking and then on the nicotine patches. And the reason I sent it to him, and he's like, well, do I have to stop smoking? And I'm like, no, you don't have to stop smoking. But what I'm kind of hoping secretly is that maybe he'll cut down on the amount of cigarettes so that will pay for the nicotine patches.
Yeah.
But I'm solely doing it because he has arthritis. He was in construction his whole life and a mountain man, and he doesn't sleep well. So he's been wearing them for 5 days now, and I'm going to check back in with him to see if he noticed anything. I talked to him after 3 days and he hadn't noticed anything yet, but he's putting them on and wearing them. So I was grateful for that. So I could go on and on. So will you share like 2 or 3 things, takeaways?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I kind of pulled away from like all the stuff in 2022, just because I was so sick 4 years ago, like actually right in the middle of COVID. I was in a wheelchair. I was super unhealthy. I was essentially dying, right? But I refused to accept their diagnosis and like, this is what's wrong. And I went completely, natural, which I had been doing before. But so I didn't know about the nicotine. I had heard rumblings, but I just didn't want to I was trying so hard to focus on basically not dying, and my father had
only do so much, right?
I could only do so much. I was going to school, and then my father had gotten a major car accident, was in ICU for 10 weeks, and I was taking care of him. So along with, my brother and sister, but it was hard. It was a lot. And anyhow, so I went to the Dr. Artist conference, and, I'm just excited because it's continuing education. It's amazing. And they're talking about all these things. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, how did I not know? I knew, but it was how did I not know about this nicotine stuff? And I had to buy his book. So he had his book there. I got it signed. And, he touched on the nicotine and what it did. And what was really cool is he has all the backup, right? So he has all the scientific research data. He has all the websites. He has he knows his stuff. So it's not just some crazy guy or crazy girl just coming out and saying all this stuff.
Well, and didn't he have in that long video that I watched that's 2 hours and a half, he has did I hear quoted 300 PDFs, shared white paper, I think it was.
Probably. I haven't seen that video because since I've been back, I have been just reading his book, and I just finished it. And so he does on his whole website, you can read about it. What is super fascinating is during COVID, there was a population that was not getting sick, and it was the smokers. Mm-hmm. And they were very confused. Well, they were very confused. They weren't confused. They knew exactly what was going on. And that's when nicotine was really, they've known for decades, but that's when scientists were what is happening? And so it's interesting because I don't know if your brother got sick during the
you know what? He lives off the grid though, but I don't think he got sick. But that's the thing.
My dad didn't get sick. He smokes, right? So it was very interesting to see us. And so people were confused and they're what's going on? But then when Dr. Artist brings it to the table, it's oh, okay, this makes sense. And it's interesting going back to what your daughter, I'm kind of backtracking a little bit. Yeah. Your daughter, kind of oh my gosh, like, what is my mom doing? Like, she's, got a secret addiction. Interesting enough, I know, right? Interesting enough. So in 1990, I'm trying to remember, this is, Dr. Artist quoted this and it's like out there. In 1990, 57% of the American population smoked. 57%. Like, that is a ridiculous amount. Like, I remember growing up, like, everybody smoked. We had restaurants, like, no smoking. Like, I remember that. Then the FDA came in and said, nicotine is bad. You cannot have it. It's addictive. We got to get it's killing everybody. It's giving everybody cancer, blah, blah, blah. Besides the point that there's 598 other chemicals inside a cigarette, right? And those aren't being contributed to any sort of cancer or, addictiveness and stuff like that. Eggplant has the highest amount of nicotine, right? So nobody said,
they talked about nightshades. They talked about tomatoes and all of that, and that it's not the nicotine, it's all of the other chemicals that they put into it.
Correct. And it's like, okay, well, how come nobody's saying, like, he's so funny in his book, he's like, how come nobody's like, oh, I got to go take an eggplant break, right? Like, nobody says that because it's not the nicotine. And so by 1994, the propaganda had worked so well that the FDA, it started going down. Gosh, I should have grabbed my book and highlighted it. Anyways, it was a tremendous, downward percentage. By 2020, when everything hit, 11% of the American population smoked.
Is that okay? Because he talks about this, you guys, in the email that I sent out. I included the link with the documentary that we're talking about with Dr. Artist, because it's his full length one. It's like 2.5 hours ish, and it's very interesting. I did not know that it was. I couldn't remember that it went, because he's quoting so many different things, but I did not know that it was down to 11%.
11%, right? Like, you don't see really people smoking. Yeah, people are vaping, but it's like, I see people smoking, but it's really rare. I live in California. Obviously you live in California, but like, I went to Florida last year and there was a lot of smokers there. Well, when I say a lot, not like when I was a kid, but there was definitely way more than there is in California. So it was interesting. And his thing is that we actually have nicotine receptors. So that is so let's see, how far down the rabbit hole do we
talk for a couple more minutes, because I want to get into Lifewave.
Yes, I will. I want to talk about that for sure. Yeah. But we have nicotine receptors, and that is why the patches were great. Nicotine patches were great for people during Corona. This is why people were not getting sick that smoked. And I mean, if you read his book, he goes into exceptional detail of exactly why.
That's the thing too, is real quick, and I'll share the tidbit that I listened to that I liked, is they had those 6 people that they tested the nicotine patches on for 6 days. Mm-hmm. And out of the 6 people, I believe all of them, they wore patches for 6 days, and then they didn't wear any. And by the 15th or 21st day, and right in there, so many COVID symptoms had gone away, and they're calling like the long haulers COVID. Yes. And that's my friend, my doctor friend, Dr. Bodon, is the one who originally sent me Dr. Artist's talk on nicotine. And that was in March. So I just started last week because I had another person, Woo Woo Dude, was talking about it. For all those that know Woo Woo Dude, he read all the white paper and was swearing about it. So I'm like, I got to give this a try. Yeah. But one of the things that I liked about it too, in addition to that, is that with the nanoparticles that are in the vax, they were all talking about this 3 years or 4 years ago when we would get the vaccines. I didn't, but people, in that we weren't sure how we were going to be able to get those nanoparticles out of us. And I'm like, okay, I was just trusting and believing that there would be something, if they can so easily put it in us. hopefully, I just was trusting, like I just always thought there would have to be a way to get those out. And they talk about this on the Dr. Artist, is that the nicotine dissolves, is that the right word? Dissolves the nanoparticles. So even if you didn't get a vax, that you maybe are shedded on and have that. So that's why I'm just like, I think it's amazing. I just, why don't you share one more takeaway and then we'll talk about Lifewave.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the awesome things, right? Because we do have nicotine receptors in our body, and that's what those nanoparticles and all the other things that are in what COVID was and the vaccine, and it goes straight to those areas. And so when you wear the nicotine, it dissolves it. A little bit into his book, there is other things that take a little bit more. So nicotine isn't the save all, but
no,
it is
a start. It's a start. And for people to feel better on it, guys, it's like, I think it's $21 or $22 a month. And I'm not wearing mine every day. And I also go back to the thought that, they only had the patches for 6 days, this trial people of, they've done so much more reporting on it though, you guys, but just these 6 people, and they stopped after 6 days and their benefits were even after the fact. So I love that.
Amazing. Yeah. And so, I mean, there's so much obviously more, and the book is amazing. The, once you get the recordings,
yes,
is it tomorrow? I'm going to be right there with you because it was a lot of information there. It was literally from 8 a.m. to 6:30. And my brain was just like, oh my gosh, this is so much. It was amazing. But I'm excited to rewatch it because, there's so much that just triangulated with what I'm currently going with and like what was put up on the board and what the other doctors were talking about. It was amazing. It was, well, I had no idea what I was getting into. But I loved it.
And that's my thing is, I have people that have been vaxxed, and one of my dear friends from high school got the vax and 1 booster. And I was talking to her last week because I'm on my 2nd round of supplements for a viral infection that I've had apparently for 20 or 25 years. But she's had COVID 5 times. 5 times. And she's not into all of this stuff. Yeah. But it's just, I just want everybody to be healthy and happy. That's my thing, So, all right, let's talk about Lifewave.
Well, interesting enough, at the conference, Lifewave was actually there. So that was super exciting. And partially because Dr. Artist and Dr. Group and Ely, they all talk about, every single booth out there we use. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Was there a lot of booths? Do you remember how many?
There was a lot of booths. There was
a dozen or more or less.
Oh, no, there was probably, let's see, how big? The hallway... There's probably 20, 25 vendors.
Okay.
And then, because there was even some like in the like little lounge area. Anyhow, but Lifewave was there and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I wanted to go see, which doctor, who was wearing it. It was a Dr. Artist, Dr. Group, or were they all wearing it?
Well, and that's interesting that you say that because I was at my natural doctor, my chiropractor, who's helping me get better and I'm feeling so much better. But he actually is on X39 and he told me that one of his clients came in and he's been practicing in the chiropractor for 38 years. And so everything comes across his desk. I'm sure kind of like everything comes across your desk and my desk. But he started wearing them because one of his clients came in, it was helping his hair regrow.
That's so awesome.
I know. No, it's just, let me tell my story with Lifewave, and then I'll have you share a little bit about it because I don't want this to be super long, but I have been on the Lifewave patches since March 11th. And I actually am on the X39, the X49, and the aloe vera. The aloe vera is for skin. And I actually use their skincare as well. Their daily moisturizer and evening moisturizer and eye cream. And I love it. And for all of you who may not know, I have had a natural line of skincare products that I formulated. And I was in a bunch of Whole Foods here in Orange County. And that was 8 years ago. So I'm on their skincare. But my thing is I had this there was a mark here on my face. and it was always there, and I wasn't sure what it was, and that's gone. And then the other thing is that I was traveling a lot in April and May, and I had called Mike because I'm like, I was in and out of Airbnbs and eating out all the time. I wasn't cooking. And I know just if I'm normally, when I wasn't on the patches, when I was gone out of town for a week, I could be a little bit soft, you know, because I wasn't working out. I work out 3 or 4 times a week. My diet's more structured at home. When I'm out traveling, it's not so much you're eating more. So I'm more soft, right? I was like, I'm still like it was summer. So I noticed when I had a tank top on or something, I still had like muscular structural and stuff. And my abs were like, kind of like it was 2 months before when I did all this crazy traveling and stuff. So I know it keeps weight off. I'm probably down about 6 or 7 pounds. I actually probably need to get a little bit of more protein in myself, but weight, muscle structure, the mark that was on my face that I had probably for a year or two that I'm remembering that I had it. It was just like a dry patch of skin. So those are the things that I've noticed so far. And I've been on them now for about 5.5 months, I guess, or 5.5 months.
Yeah.
And it reverses age, but I'm going to let you talk about that. So you go ahead and share, because I want people to hear what you have to say about them, and just a brief overview as if people haven't ever heard about them, because if you've heard about them, they're going to try it. And I love that you can return them. If it doesn't work for 90 days, you can return it. It's like, and I just know people are all fanatical about it. And I know so many people who are always patched up.
Yeah. I actually have 4 on right now just because that's what I do. I didn't start that way. I wanted to make sure, the ones that I was using were working, and then I'd go from there and I add on. So I have like my 4 that I wear during the day and then 4 at night. So I actually remember, because I didn't know you, when Mike called, or when you called Mike, and Mike was like, hey, I talked to Laurie, and
it was February, because I was in Tennessee. I remember driving and I'm like, I have time to talk.
Yeah. And I was just like, and then I think it was like May or something, you called again, and I still hadn't met you. And you had said, oh my gosh, these things are like amazing, because you're wearing the X49. It was huge. Yeah. So
it was June.
It was June. Okay. Yeah.
But no, it was like, I'm so like my diet and everything, but I know when I'm off traveling, it's different. So go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, it was, but I just thought it was so neat because we hear stuff like that all the time, right? Where people call us and tell us, oh my gosh, Vanessa, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. But I had never heard that before. And obviously you're somebody that, works out, takes fitness very seriously.
So you hadn't heard that about muscle and weight and stuff yet?
No, you hear, but like
not from firsthand.
Yeah. Like correct. Like in the core group, like I had yet to hear that. Like, not that I'm saying those stories aren't real, but like I want to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I was like, that is so amazing. Cause literally the patch is just like the nicotine, right? So that's how the X39 works. That's how all these works. It's a little bit different because nicotine patches are transdermal. These aren't transdermal, right? So it's literally frequency, but when you put those patches on, it's light frequency. It's our body speaking to those patches, and we have those receptors, right? So it activates.
Can you share a little bit about that? Because that was something I was going to do a ceremony, and you're not supposed to have any supplements, or if you're on any pharmaceuticals, you're not supposed to have it. And so I was calling Mike, and he told me how the patches actually worked, because this was back in April when I first started on. Can you share just a little bit about that so that people understand, like layman's terms, what that means to them?
Yeah. So it doesn't go into your skin, right? So like with the nicotine, like it's literally like the nicotine is in the patch and it's like seeping into your skin, which is our biggest organ, right? So our skin is our biggest organ. So everything that you put on it, it goes straight into our bloodstream. Yep. Nicotine is going straight into there. That is not how the X39 or, X49 works. Any of them.
Yeah.
You put it on, and it, just like the sun, when we go out, we don't get vitamin D from the sun. The sun activates our own through heat, our own process of making vitamin D, which is a hormone, right? So then our body's like, oh, I got vitamin D. So it's a symbiotic relationship. And just like the patches, you throw that on and it's literally like, oh my gosh, there's the GHKCU copper peptide, which is a peptide in our body, which is in charge of our stem cells. And then the stem cells are like, here I am, let's wake up and let's have a party. And unfortunately, we only have a very short period of time where our stem cells are up and partying, and then they start taking a long nap. And then pretty much once you hit 60, they're like, okay, good night. And so it's a bummer that it's such a short period of time, but those X39s activate that. And sometimes it's quickly, sometimes it's not so quickly. And, I think we're so programmed, just like your daughter was programmed into thinking, oh my gosh, my mom's nicotine. And it's really not.
And she's never, ever, ever wondered about anything that I have, because I have, juice.
But we've been programmed into thinking nicotine is bad, right? So we also have been programmed into thinking that we could take a pill and we're going to be better.
And that never happened.
It doesn't happen because we didn't get sick overnight, or we didn't get those symptoms overnight. Yeah. We got those symptoms have been raging inside our body for months, years, decades. And then it's going to take some time for our body to react and say, okay, let's wake up again. Crazy enough, I have to tell you this story. I don't know if I told you this story. My friend, she's a chiropractor. I had told her about them a couple of years ago because I've been doing it for 2 years now. Mike's story, I'm sure you guys have heard, is insane also. But her mom, so anyways, I gave her some. She was like, I don't really feel anything. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I get it. Everybody has to have their own experience. So her mom is 90. She just turned 90, or she's going to turn 90. So anyways, she's older. Up there. She's had a couple decades on her. She's lived a long, healthy life. And she's not well right now. And she hasn't been, and she's in a chronic pain. Her leg, she's got a bunch of symptoms. She's going to the doctors. Obviously, my friend's a chiropractor, and they've done physical therapy, chiropractor, everything you can think of. And she calls me, not last Friday, the Friday before. And she's like, Vanessa, can I get some of those patches? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, you always, and not that I like shove them down her throat, but I'm like, she always feels them on me. She sees them on me, and she asks questions. So I was like, sure. And I gave her some. I actually gave her X39 and Alavita because it's more than skin. Also, it's for like organ and tissue repair. I had no idea until I really started digging into it. Anyways, and then Icewave, which is our pain patch. And I'm like, here, I know we're not really supposed to do this, but throw them all at her, right? Just throw them, because it's like a really severe situation. She calls me Monday, and she was like, what in the heck just happened?
3 days.
And she's 90. She was like, what in the world? She was like, what is this magic?
And then to have your mother not to be in pain anymore. And that's my thing.
Beside herself, which again, not a typical response, but it's like, we don't know how the body's going to react, right? We don't know what's happening inside when we have a rash, or when we have a bruise, or when we have a spot on our lip. That means things were already happening inside of us that we had no idea. And it's our body's final way of being like, please help me.
Yeah.
Please help.
That's the thing that you touched on too, Vanessa, is that when I had my skincare line, I did that because I wanted everybody to be healthy. And I'm like, okay, people aren't listening to some of the health stuff I'm talking about as far as just food and drinking water, and sea salt is good for you and all these things. So I'm like, I need a product. At least I could help eliminate some of those chemicals that are in their bathroom cabinet, for women, for body oils and face moisturizers and all of that stuff. And so for me, it was just like trying to get some of those chemicals out.
Yes.
And starting with that. But that was one of the things. I'd listened to one of the several testimonials before I started up on Lifewave. And there was like a minute one. And there was a guy who was going to church, and he would always have to sit down because he was in so much pain. But then after he started on the Lifewave patches, and I think he said 5 or 7 days, he was able to stand up because he likes to stand up in the back. And I'm like, there has to be something to this. But again, I want to impress upon everybody that every body is different. So what's going to be good for me may not be good for my daughter or you or my neighbor. Every body is going to be affected a little bit differently. It's almost kind of like what sparkling water flavor you like. It's almost as simple as that. Well, I like lemon, I like lime, I like original, I don't like any flavoring. Every body is different. So what it's going to take in is going to be different. And that's the thing is with these, it's like, it's a little bit of a commitment. And whenever I start something, I'm like, I'm going to try it for 90 days or 6 months and see.
Correct.
Just like going to a gym, seeing which teachers I like, seeing which yoga instructor I want to go to. And so it's almost like that with these is you need to try it, but you have to put them on. It's 12 hours on, 12 hours off.
Correct.
But try it. And can you share a little bit too about, and then I'll let you get going, but can you share a little bit too about like for every decade you wear?
Oh, yeah. So for every decade, this is David Schmidt, the founder and scientist and owner of all this. It's 1 month for every decade you're alive. So, we say, give your body 90 days at least, right? And for the most part, we're talking to older than 30-year-olds, right? Yeah. I mean, sometimes they're like my son does them and he loves them. He's 22. So, but commit for 90 days to see what your body is going to do. I mean, we have people, we call them one patch wonders, like my friend's mom or, that guy at church. Right. So there are circumstances like that. Mm-hmm. I wasn't right. Like I wasn't that. It took me a long time. I actually had to stop doing them because my, this word is so overused, but I'm going to use it. My detox symptoms, we were crazy. And because it was so much energy and so much stuff happening in my body was like, okay, like it was a lot. And I feel things instantly. So I knew, so I had to like pull back for a little bit. And now obviously I wear 4 at a time.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what's, like you said, every body is so different that we have to just give it time. And so 1 month for every decade you're alive and just depending on what you're doing. But I mean, who doesn't need their stem cells to be woken up?
Well, and to reverse an age, like who doesn't want all of the inner things in our body? I don't want to be in a wheelchair when I'm 100. I want to get around. I want to sleep good. And that's another thing. It's just like people talk about not sleeping well. And if you don't feel good, you can't get out and get off with your day. One more question. Do you have time?
I have a whole 30 more minutes for you.
Can you tell a little bit about the award that Lifewave just got?
Oh, yes. Okay, so it's called, and I should have confirmed. I didn't know you were going to ask me this.
No, that's okay. So everybody's all casual on here.
I think it was CSN. So it's like a convention for all the network marketing, right? So like all the other companies that do the same thing as Lifewave. And David Schmidt was the keynote speaker. Like, hello, of all. And I don't know if this like includes like out of the country, but I know it's like a national thing. So like all the CEOs and like the heads of these companies all went to this convention. I'm pretty sure it was in Dallas. So something about Dallas, it's always there. And he was the keynote speaker, and Lifewave won the award for like the most like innovative, like the fastest growing innovative company right now, because people are seeing what's happening. I mean, you got Olympians wearing the patches. You have people are, and here's the thing, they can because there's nothing going into the body. It's like, oh, I went and sat out of the sun and I got a bunch of energy. You can't take that away from people. You can't say, no, you can't go out in the sun. And so we won that award, and people are just talking about Lifewave so much because they're like, what in the world? And David Schmidt is literally like a genius. He's so, and when you hear him speak, you're just like, oh my gosh, he just wants to help people. Like he literally has a heart to make people's health be better. And that's what's so exciting for me, because I'm like, that's what I do. You know, it's like, I want to help people naturally. Like, do I think IVs are wonderful? Yes, I do. But can I help somebody naturally without that? Probably so, you know? So, and that's where he comes in and is just like, I want to do, you know, all the things that could reverse people's aging, right? So it's not anti-aging. It doesn't just stop you where you're at, literally makes you go in reverse because of those stem cells working.
I love that. I love that. With that, I'm going to end our recording because
Sure.
it's just like, if anybody wants to find out about these, reach out to me. And I just thank you so much, Vanessa, for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking me.